Yes, indeed. We back. We back. All black everything. Yes, indeed. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. Tell a friend. We back with the new series. I forgot to say it a couple times, but we've been lied to slash. Did you know? Back at it when the world was black, and back at some facts and evidence, which you gotta have when you're doing your research. But do your own research. Don't take my word for it. When the world is black, baby. All black everything. Think it's plate. Big dreams, many streams. Let's go. Like, share, subscribe, thumbs up. Like you hitchhiking. And it says we begin really old stuff, or where's the evidence? So here we are telling you that we've been building complex societies for 400,000 years ago. You're right to wonder, where's your evidence? Because there is evidence. There is evidence, but it might not be what you expect to see. Until about 12,000 years ago, human societies throughout the world haven't left considerable traces of their existence. This doesn't mean that organized cities and societies didn't exist before this time. They're just not as strong in the archaeological record. Word of mouth. That's how things used to be done. This is the primarily because most of the earliest human societies, no matter how organized or intellectually advanced, lived in greater harmony with the natural environment than later populations, and these groups therefore found it unnecessary to create types of artifacts that would typify later periods. As J. Douglas Kenyon says in the introduction to Forbidden History, after all, it is argued if there had been an early or advanced civilization, we would have discovered unmistakable evidence of its existence. Presumably, we would have seen the remains of its highways and bridges and electrical wiring. We would have found its plastic bottles, its city dumps, and its CD rounds. Therefore, excuse me, those are, after all, the things we will leave behind for the future archaeologists to puzzle over. But could an ancient civilization have risen to no heights similar to our own, or excuse me, risen to heights similar to our own, yet have traveled a different road? What would we understand of a world that might have employed fundamentally different, though no less effective techniques to harness the forces of nature? Would we or could we comprehend a word capable of, for example, creating the and transmitting energy by means other than a power grid, traveling great distances without internal combustion engines, or making highly complex calculations involving earth science and astronomy without electronic computers? And this is exactly what you'll find throughout his book, throughout this book, excuse me. Yet, of the prehistoric people that evidently did produce such innovations long before their time, many have ignored or hidden by the scientific community that considers these out of place artifacts a challenge to the conventional timeline of human history. Lies, in other words. Thus, excuse me, that is, if the scientific community is saying that humans only became intelligent enough to appreciate art about 30,000 years ago, yet someone discovers an artistic sculpture 300,000 years old, then that sculpture may be ignored, dismissed, or hidden away altogether. Michael Cremo, and Richard Thompson have documented countless examples of this in their massive work, Forbidden Archaeology. William F. Corliss has also collected several volumes of out of place artifacts in his Scientific Frontiers series of books. The reason these two sources are important is because, unlike less reputable writers who make stuff up to make their points, these individuals only compile their information from reputable journals known for their academic integrity. Yet these findings were often ignored or covered up as soon as they were announced. So if it wasn't for people like Cremo or Corliss, we wouldn't even know about some of the most amazing discoveries of our past. Yet, such discoveries continue to be made. Most recently, the eminent journal Nature published a paper documenting clear evidence for the use of stone cutting tools 3.3 3.39 million years ago at Dika, Ethiopia. The tools themselves haven't been found, but the marks they left tell of precise sharp cuts that are unlikely to have come from some monkey man banging a rock. Of course, mainstream scientists have been in protest since. Go figure, man. Par for the course. You know how they go. When you see the stone tools that archaeologists considered man's earliest inventions, most have been so weathered over millennia that they resemble natural occurrences or primitive handiwork, and people are led to believe that prehistoric man had little ability. For example, the ancient pyramids of China have eroded, grassed over, and now resemble hills and earthen mountains. Some were purposely destroyed. Same story with the structures now known as the mounds of North America. But what did these structures look like before this? If the heavily eroded Sphinx is any indication, these mounds could have once been monumental works of engineering. Another issue is that we'll never have full record of the past. We'll only find bits and pieces and attempt to put the story together by connecting those dots. For example, we don't have fossils for every person who ever lived. We have less than 0.001%. And most of these bones and artifacts are only found in places where archaeologists have selected to dig, often not in predominantly black areas, and where the soil and other conditions have preserved them somehow. Don't even mention that most of our earliest settlements are either buried deep under modern cities and farms or submerged underwater thanks to 50,000 years of rising sea levels. We're basically assembling a puzzle from a few tiny bits and pieces, hoping to get some kind of what the bigger picture should look like. But it's not hopeless, nor is it guesswork. In fact, we'll show you some of how it's done. And I think we're going to leave it right there. But yeah, you got to go and do your digging and understand who's credible and who's not. Integrity, people with integrity, writers with integrity, researchers, journalists, all that. When the world was black, do your own research though. This is some powerful information. We just sharing the information. We've been lied to slash did you know the new series. But like you share, subscribe, thumbs up, like hitchhiking. Let's get it going. All black everything, think it's right, big things, many streams. Get it through the algorithms. We growing. We growing.